Hello YouTube. We're back out here in the carport garage today messing with the Trans Am. It was kicking the tire about mid-track, a little after the 1-2 shift, and trying to figure out why it was doing that. So I was actually out here messing with it yesterday, and apparently I had it wrote down. The front, we had set the compression at 16 and the rebound 5 to 7, depending on the track. But I come out here and check it after that race. Chris, we raced front side and then we did back side. Chris was able to win the 6.0 index class, but even on the prep side, it was breaking the tire loose. And then we raced the world's fastest Durango Hellcat, and Christopher was actually out on him there at first, but about half track it started to lose the tire, and that Hellcat Durango drove right around us. If you wonder what that Durango Hellcat runs, it runs like a 8.5 and 152 in the quarter. Yeah, I was trying to figure out why this was doing this, and I get in here and I'm looking at the shocks, and the compression on this side, the driver's side, was at like 6, and on the passenger side it was on like 12. The rebound was where it's supposed to be 6 or 7, but it looks like when that spring is compressed, it's just hitting that knob. And I guess when the car bounces up and down, it was turning the knob. I've unloosened it from the bottom. It was turning the knob. I guess that's what changed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it around where the knobs are backwards. There's actually more room to reach in underneath there if you face it backwards anyway. Now hopefully that'll fix that, but that's why we was having so many traction issues, I'm pretty sure, because the front end was coming up, and then on the 1-2 shift the front end was nosing over and unloading the rear end. But I was also wanting to see if these A-arms were hitting, and I'm pretty sure they are, because I got the shock unbolted down there and it won't go down any further, and there's about that much space left, so we were about that much from topping out the shock anyway. But the A-arms are hitting, and we want to see if we can get more travel. More travel helps with the backside racing. So, but this suspension is on the rear. We got mono leafs with cow tracks. There's this Stalker Star QA1 double adjustables all the way around. And the front is completely stock except for the springs have been lowered a little bit. And I'll tell y'all what we run on the settings on those. So this column here is compression, this is rebound. Here's the front. We run 16 compression, 7 rebound. And this depends on the track. Usually 5 to 7 though. And then the rear, we want the tire to separate from the body as it launches and then gradually come back. So we run 8 compression, 6 rebound. And honestly, we don't even change the rear for no prep. And we don't even change the front compression for no prep versus a prep track. This is the only number we change. We lower that for prep track. We lower it to about a 5 or a 4, and then for prep track we'll go up to 6, 7, maybe even 8. On a prep track, you just want it to come up just enough for it to hook, and then you want the rear tire to separate from the body to plant, but you don't want it to plant so hard it bounces back up. You want it to plant and stay planted and then gradually come back up. The front on a prep track, you just want it to come up just enough to hook and then gradually come back down and go down the track. And then on a no prep surface, you want it to come up, you want it to stay up all the way down through there. So for no prep, we need a little bit more travel. So that's what we're going to do today. But let me show you how much travel the car has, just the way it's set up now. The front, again, it's stock everything except for a lowered spring and a QA1 double adjustable. The rear, QA1 double adjustables and a monoleaf spring and cow tracks. Oh, and also the rebound controls how fast the body comes away from the tire. That's the rebound. And then the compression is the body compressing down towards the tire on those knobs. So again, you want the no prep, you want the front to come up and stay up all the way down the track, and then the rear, you just want it to separate a little bit, plant the tire, and then gradually unseparate. And then prep track, again, you want the tire to separate from the body, plant, not plant so hard that it bounces the tire, which that's what happens when the tire turns. The way the rear ends are set, it tries to force the tire down away from the body, but you can control how fast it goes down with the rebound, and then you can control how gradual it comes back up by the compression. And then on the front, on a prep track, you just want it to come up and then gradually come back down. And up you control with the rebound, and then down you control with the compression knob. And then on no prep, while we lower the rebound, is because we want it to come up fast, stay up, and then run a high compression so it stays up all the way down the track. But yeah, now let's get into what the travel is with it set the way it is. All right, I got the tape measure right in the middle of the wheel, and what are we at? 26, almost 26 and a half. I think that is 26 and a half. If I could, I'm trying to squat down, hold the camera. 26 and 7/16. We'll go with that. Let's jack it up. I'm just going to jack up one side. That might not get us a perfect reading, but it'll get us close. Let's jack up one side until the tire comes off the ground, and then see where it's at. All right, there's the tire. Just barely. I mean, it's still dragging on the. I'm gonna jack blade down some. There we go. It's just barely dragging the wood there. Let's see what we got now. Right in the middle of the cap part. Caught 32 and 5/8. Yeah, 32 and 5/8. And we're going to add to it with these right here. These are 1 inch longer upper ball joints. So what that's going to do is it's going to raise the upper A-arm, because right now the A-arm's hitting on something. I don't know exactly where it's hitting, but we're going to figure that out when we take this ball joint out. It'll raise this up an extra inch, which gives another inch of travel, which will probably be more at the actual tire. We'll measure it and see exactly how much we get. But first thing to do is take the tire off. We'll take this ball joint out. There's a nut down here, a castle nut, usually with a cotter pin in it, right there. We'll take that out. We'll take that nut off. They make a fork you can stick in here and pry this apart. But what I usually do is I take this castle nut off, and then I flip it over so you're not beating on the castle part of the nut. I flip it over and I screw it back in almost till the bottom of the bolt is even with the nut itself. And I just tap it with a hammer and pop it out. And then now if yours is stock, you'll have to grind these out because they're riveted in. Chris has already done this. He's put all new bushings through this thing and everything a couple of years back. But yeah, that's what we're going to do next. Take this cotter pin out. I'm going to go ahead and unbolt the shock and take it out also, but we got to take the wheel off first. Not the right way to do it. But I just tapped with a hammer right there and it broke loose. Alright, I put me a jack stand down there. Now we'll loosen this bolt and all this will drop down and take these nuts out. So this, it couldn't go no lower because this right here, this part that indents in right there, it's hitting right there. Which if you go down much further, it's going to hit through here. I know a lot of people, they'll cut this out to get more downward, but I mean, even if you did that, it's gonna start hitting here. But it would go down quite a bit more if you took that out. Then it'd probably hit the front of this, but you could grind down the front of that. Well, if we should do that. All right, got all the bolts out, or if yours has rivets, just got to grind them out and it ain't easy getting in there. It just pulls right out. And that's the stock one. There they are side by side. And this one right here, look, it moves all by itself. This one right here, you can't even move it with your hand. Probably could. It don't move easy though. It don't move easy at all. If y'all are wondering the part number on those, that's what it is. And this is the bushing that goes with them. Alright, bolts all tight. Now I'm going to put this boot on there. You'll need 2 hands for that, looks like. Yeah. I'm going to put that boot tie on there. I'm just going to zip tie it on there. You know, I got them wire ones too. Nah, zip tie will be fine. I probably should have done it like this earlier, but took the jack, moved it over there, underneath there, put a jack stand there, so I can jack this part up. I figured this would reach where we had it, but it didn't, so I'm going to jack this part up so I can, so to go in that hole so I can at least get the nut on it. Oh yeah, and that boot, it fits like crap. I can't even get it to stay up on there to put I wanted to put a zip tie around here. I put one down there, but that ain't really working. I wonder how high that'll come up and if it'll push that up any. Alright, that boot. I went back inside just to make sure I told him the right boot to order. He bought all this stuff, but I told him I researched it. I work from home on the computer. And when it gets slow, it just makes it easier for me to research stuff. But he bought it and he's had it out here. But I went back in there and double checked, see if that boot was the right boot, and it is the right boot. But that thing fits like crap. But I jacked it up there and I pushed up on it real hard and I put this one in there. And that held it on and I put that one on there. Now let's lower it and see if it stays on. Oh yeah. The brake line's going to be long enough, so that's cool. It looks like the bracket has been bent back some. I think that, I don't know, I can't remember if that was like that or straight up. Or I know some people bend those down for stuff like this, but let me lower it back down and see if the boot pops off again. And so when it went down, it did pop off in the back, but there's no way nothing could get in and out of there. And my zip tie popped off too, so I went and cut it off. I'm just going to leave that one on there and call it good. When you jack it back up, it pops back on. I don't know. And I think the tie rod's going to be just fine. That's all the way down. I don't think we need a bump stir kit. It's not pulling the wheel inside. That'll be fine. All right. So, and then I'm not going to take all that off to cut that out. When the car's setting at natural ride height, that's going to be way up here. And I can just cut that out from up here. But I am going to cut at least this out right here on both sides, because that is holding us up about, I don't know, probably a ½ inch. All right, I tightened up the nut, 60 foot-pounds. I put the cotter pin in. Now let's lower it and see how much travel it is. But now we are going to get more travel when we cut that piece out. That piece right there, that divot, that'll give us at least probably another inch. Well, we had 32 5/8. Now we got 34 5/8. It went up 2 inches off of that. You believe that? So I wasn't believing that, so I had to remeasure. Yeah, 26 and, I don't know, 3/4. Right at 26 3/4. All right, so here's what we had before. The car setting flat was 26 7/16 before. Now we're at 26 3/4. It went up 5/16 of an inch, and that's probably just because the spring ain't settled yet. And then it went up to 32 5/8, which was 6 3/16 travel. And then now it goes up to 34 5/8, which is 2 extra inches. But I think the spring just hasn't settled yet, so I just went the math off that. 1 11/16 is what we gained in travel. But I think it grabbed the 2 inches, because once it settles, it's going to measure this, I bet. I think I'm going to go eat, but tomorrow, this little divot, which is at least a ½ an inch, I'm going to cut that out. So this will go down further, and we'll see how much more we get out of that. And then we're going to have to put the shock in at ride height like it is right now. And I'll probably just put a bunch of boards under the tire so I can fit under there, and put the shock in and see where it's at, fully compressed all the way down. And then kind of just mark it right there and take it back out and see. I know we need at least a 1 inch extension, but if it has a 1 inch extension on that shock, is when the car's all the way down, we still need some shock left for, you know, driving around and hitting bumps. So we need to make sure that it's at ride height, the shock isn't fully compressed. I got these dials all the way loose, so this is easy to move. But what I mean by all the way compressed, I mean all the way down like this. We need to make sure that with that 1 inch extension on here, that we still have some shock travel down here. Probably only need about a ½ inch, probably about that much. You got to think, when this moves ½ inch, the tire probably moves 2 inches, because this connects to the lower control arm and this connects to the frame. It don't connect to the upper control arm. The upper control arm just moves by itself. That connects to the bottom arm, and this connects to the frame. It just moves, it just shocks the bottom arm. So, but we need to make sure that even with a 1 inch extension on here at ride height, we still have, I'd say, about that much left. And then we also want to make sure that with this all the way extended, with the 1 inch extension on there, that this isn't topping out when it's at full travel. We want, we want it right there, but not there. You don't want the shock to come up and then the shock itself bottom out or top out, because that'll, if it comes up too fast, it'll hit too hard and it'll unload the rear end. So we need to check that too. We made that mistake before on a past video. When we put the rear shocks in, they weren't long enough, and we went to the track on a 300 shot and we just blew the tires clean off. And we put extensions in it, and that fixed that. See, that's a extender. And now we're 1.360 foots. So that fixed that. But you got to make sure that you got enough compression for driving around and hitting bumps. If you, well, you know, we drive these cars. And then you got to make sure that at full travel that the shock's not maxed out before the travel is. You want to find that happy median in there. And you can use shock extenders for stuff like that, or it's hard to take those measurements, but you can take those measurements and make sure you buy a shock that is the size you need too. But yeah, I want to cut that hole in this first before we take those measurements, because once I cut that hole, it's hitting right there. I think that's going to let it go down a little bit more even, but then it'll start hitting on the inside on that piece right there. Where's it at? That piece right there. Start hitting up in there. So I don't know how much it's going to give us. We might just leave it alone. I'll talk to Christopher and see what he thinks. I think on no prep, we want at least 6 inches of travel, and we're at like 7 3/4, and before we were at 6, a little over 6. So I think that might be enough.
Well, we elected not to cut this part out because the shock just didn't have enough movement for more travel, and that's what we'll go over next, how to get the shock to work happy with our new travel.
Oh, also, the zip tie thing, it just wasn't working. When it went all the way down, it'd pop off the back. So Chris had done some research, and he said, I'm shaking, it's kind of cold outside. You know, this is hard rubber, and I've cut a slit in it, and we're going to put it in there. There's a slit. We're going to put it in there and hold that up. Well, it was not easy getting it in there, but it's in there. And next time we'll put the boot on, then we'll put that on before we stick it through the spindle. But let's drop it down and make sure it don't come off the back now. All right, it's all the way down. Yeah, that'll work. And plenty of room in the brake line. And some people put a bump steer kit on, but it looks like that tie rod's gonna work. But now that'll do it for the video, for that part. Y'all have a good day.